Folks, you know how it is. We at JoBlo cannot get enough of the beloved action flick. And it seems like there will never ever be a shortage of action icons for us to look up at the screen at and darl in amazement as we aspire to be jacked and oiled up just like they are. Well, if you love action movies as much as we do, then you are in luck, because today I'm going to be tier list ranking action icons based on how much I love them. And folks, I think we're in for a pretty one-sided list, to be honest. Nah, I'm just kidding. While you guys love your action movies and while we love our action movies, everybody's opinion on which icons are the best are going to differ here and there. And today, I'm going to tell you about mine. So let's pass it over to me and get into it. Okay, so first let me walk you guys through the tiers that we have. Okay, so starting at the top, these are gonna be the best of the best, and I have that labeled as bad to the bone. Then under that, we've got bankable, somebody that if you put this character in the movie, you know you're gonna get something good or iconic out of it. Below that, we've got solid, then we've got meh, fine, and then we have not my bag. I suspect there's not gonna be very many characters in that last category, but we have to have it for continuity.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so let's get right into it with Axel Foley, also known as Axel F, apparently, from the recent Beverly Hills Cop 4 on Netflix. You guys will recognize this guy from all 4 Beverly Hills Cop films. Those are classic action comedy movies. Even this 4th one, this Legacy sequel, was pretty good. This is an action star, an action hero that I think many people enjoy in general, including myself, especially those first 2 movies. So I'm gonna go with bankable. I feel that if you were to make even another Beverly Hills Cop film, you put Axel Foley in it, you're gonna get something at the very least funny and energetic, which is really what we're asking for.
See? That's the whole object of this. Taggart's dick is hard, but he won't let you know because he's the boss.
Okay, next we have 007. Now this isn't just the Daniel Craig 007, it's gonna be anybody who's played James Bond, but obviously I had to put a picture of somebody. So James Bond, you know, with the recent news that the rights to these films have been acquired by Amazon and that there's gonna be kind of a reboot in the works, who knows what is gonna become of the icon that is 007 being owned by a streaming platform and not the Broccoli's. It is gonna be strange. You know what, in my opinion, I'm gonna go with bankable, not bad to the bone. And the reason for that is because there are James Bond iterations that I do not care for. There's also James Bond movies that I kind of don't care for. So I would say bankable in the sense that you put Daniel Craig or you put James Bond in a movie, it's probably gonna have something good that comes out of it, but it's not a full guarantee. He's not the GOAT of action heroes, in my opinion. That character has yet to come. Well, speaking of that, we've got Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones. Now, here's the thing, he's going in bad to the bone. Hear me out, okay? Do I like the Indiana Jones franchise maybe more than the 007 franchise? No, there's less good Indiana Jones movies, but the ones I like more than my favorite Bond movies. I think Harrison Ford in general is a great actor. I think this is one of those characters that defines his career, and so for me, he's bad to the bone.
Prepare to meet Kali in hell.
And not to get too carried away with bad to the bone, but I think John McClane also is one that needs to be up there, you know? John McClane is probably one of my favorite action stars for sure, maybe top 5. I guess we'll see by the time this list is done, but everybody loves John McClane. If you've seen any of the Die Hard movies from the early days, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you've seen some of the Die Hard movies from the later days, some of them are serviceable, and at the very least, Bruce Willis is usually not the problem with the Die Hard franchise. So for that, I think John McClane is bad to the bone.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady! Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
All right, another John. A lot of Johns on this list just in general, but John Wick. John Wick, the man who has yet to have a bad movie in his franchise. However, I think John Wick is bankable. And the reason why I don't have him on the level of Indiana Jones and John McClane is just simply time. Time is gonna tell how well John Wick, remains in the zeitgeist. Now, I think if we take a look at this movie in 5 years or this list in 5 years, he'll be higher on the list, I'm sure. But for now, I think let's give him time to really prove that he is one of the all-time GOATs. And by the way, I'm talking about John Wick, not Keanu Reeves, who's already the GOAT. Keeping with the theme of Johns, we've got Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, this is one of 2 people on here, maybe 3, that I put the actor without a specific role. And the reason for that is because I feel truly that Jean-Claude Van Damme is so much more iconic as the real person than he is as any of his roles. But in my mind, let's say this is Kurt from Kickboxer, just because that's my favorite Jean-Claude movie. Putting him in solid. I know that this is probably a big no-no for some of you, but for others of you, you'll understand. I like Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Of course, you know, you've got your Time Cop, Kickboxer, even Street Fighter. You know, he's not the problem with that movie. But there are plenty of Jean-Claude Van Damme films that I've not seen. There are plenty of Jean-Claude Van Damme films that I don't enjoy. So for me, I'm actually gonna bump him down to meh, fine. Because I like the icon a lot more than his movies, I think. So, there you go. All right, next we're looking at Jason Bourne. If you guys have seen any of the Bourne Identity movies, there's some good ones. There's some very good ones. For the most part, they're all pretty solid. Like, there's not an outstanding bad one in the series, but I think the earlier ones, in my opinion, are a little bit sharper, a little more, you know, raw. But Jason Bourne, I'm gonna put on the same level as Jean-Claude, in that I like some of the Jason Bourne movies. The Bourne Identity, the Bourne Supremacy. The character of Jason Bourne, I think you get most of what you're gonna love about him in the first movie, and then they kind of do build off it from there, but it's mostly samey kind of after that. Whereas a lot of these other characters over the course of their movies do experience some kind of evolution that really solidifies their place. Jason Bourne, I think, more petered out than petered in. Is that a thing? All right, the next person we've got here, this is the same thing as Jean-Claude Van Damme, where I put Bruce Lee as Bruce Lee because I think he's most iconic as himself, not as any of his characters. And Bruce Lee, I gotta put in Bad to the Bone. This is an actor that taught me a lot in terms of who I was and what I'm into and what I like. He's not jacked. He's not oiled up. He is sweaty though in this picture. But he's small and disciplined and tight. And I think because of that, there is this kind of level of, you know, respect that you give that he could probably take out a super muscular, jacked, oiled up, you know, bodybuilder, and he looks like he couldn't. And I think that part of that charm really makes Bruce Lee Bad to the Bone. All right, now up next, folks, we've got one Sarah Connor from the Terminator franchise, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now the thing about Sarah Connor is when I think about badass Terminator characters, she is right up there with Arnold. I mean, Sarah Connor has had one hell of an arc and a TV series to further explore that, which I don't think is canon, but if it was, all the more reason to love her. Sarah Connor is kind of the quintessential femme fatale heroine, you know, but she's way grittier. She's not like, you know, Ava Green in Sin City. She is like Ellen Ripley in Alien, you know, who, spoiler alert, may or may not also be on this list. I'm gonna put Sarah Connor in bankable. I'm gonna put Sarah Connor in solid, I think. Now, as much as I love Sarah Connor in some of the Terminator movies, I'm not a huge fan of many of the Terminator movies. I love Terminator, and I really love T2, but that's it.
Good morning, Dr. Silberman. How's the knee?
The Return of the John. We've got one John Rambo, baby. Now, if you guys haven't seen the Rambo films, Sylvester Stallone goes through quite a transformation throughout these movies, but the very first one, Rambo First Blood, is one of the greatest action films I've ever seen, and I really stand by Stallone's performance as John Rambo, as kind of a wayward, lost, damaged veteran who doesn't want trouble and yet seems to find it anyway and has to get himself out of it. Rambo probably is his most iconic performance outside of Rocky, but Rambo is an action movie. Rocky, I think, has a lot more going on. So I'm gonna put John Rambo in bankable. I would say the first Rambo movie does a lot of the heavy lifting, but to be honest, if you like the Rambo franchise, you'll know what I mean when I say Sylvester Stallone kind of just keeps getting more badass as those movies go. As he gets older, by the time the franchise gets to like Last Blood, He's too old for this shit, and he's cranky about it, and I like that. So it's good. I'm gonna put him in bankable.
I was in charge of $1 million equipment. Back here, I can't even hold the job. Fucking guys! Ah!
Okay, now next we've got Mel Gibson as Mad Max. Now specifically, let's talk Mad Max 1 and 2 as far as movies I love. And then, you know, everything after that. Again, kind of diminishing returns until we get to Fury Road. Mad Max, 2 good movies in my opinion, from the Mel Gibson series. I'm gonna go with solid. He's on the level of Sarah Connor. Actually, that's probably the most confident category right now. And solid, I feel like those are 2 characters that really belong where they're at for me. The rest, I feel like if I made this list tomorrow, I might have to tweak some of these. So we'll see how we end up. This one is going to be controversial. We've got Ellen Ripley of the beloved Alien franchise. My beloved franchise that I care about. If you guys haven't seen, I did a very lengthy deconstructing of the movie Alien on the horror channel, and I talked about the sequels as well. And Ellen Ripley, to me, is bad to the bone. This is a woman that I want on my team if I gotta fight off xenomorphs. This is a woman that I want on my team if I'm gonna be lost in space. She is a bona fide badass. And if you don't believe me, watch Aliens, the James Cameron sequel to the original film. Watch that movie and tell me that Ripley is not your hero. Cause she is, let me tell you.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Next we've got Snake Plissken from Escape from New York, baby. Kurt Russell. You know, I just watched The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, like last week. And it's, I mean, you can never forget how brilliant and sketchy and scary that movie is. But Kurt Russell's performance, man, is ideal. I love this man. Snake Plissken, kind of no different. This is to me the most iconic Kurt Russell character. When I think of him with the eye patch. Snake Plissken, what a charmer. I'm gonna put bankable, honestly. I'm moving him to bankable, and here's why. Well, because if you do put him in a movie, people will go see that movie specifically to see Snake Plissken, and I believe that. Next up, we've got my man Dutch from Predator. This is, again, another classic Arnold role. There's a few roles I had to put on this list for Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is, you know, as much as Stallone or anyone else, he is an action hero. I'll be honest, I like the Predator movies quite a bit. I like the character of Dutch. I'm struggling with the placement here because as much as I love Arnold, I'm looking at his other character on this list that we're gonna get to, and you know, that one needs to make sure it has the right place. So for Dutch of Predator, I'm gonna put him in. I have to put him in bankable. Here's the thing, this dude beat the Predator. It's almost blasphemy to put him in anything lower than bankable. He had to outsmart the Predator, you know, because his giant jacked muscles and sexiness could do him no good. So he had to outsmart him. And I like that, and I like this character for that reason. I think the image of Dutch is some of that macho, you know, oily, muscular guy that we all kind of looked up to in those days. But I think the character is so much more than that. So I gotta put Dutch in bankable. Shout out the Predator, man. Okay, folks, we have an interesting one next. Now, this one I included for the sake of variety, but I also cannot stress enough. This character is an action hero, if nothing else, just given by the amount of money his franchise has brought in. And that is Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, aka the voice of Groot, in case you forgot. I like to mention that. All right, here's the thing. This is gonna be the first one, I think, and not my bag. As much as the first Fast and the Furious movie is one of my favorites, as much as the fifth one, I think, is like an absolutely worthy retread of that, I don't like Vin Diesel. I don't like Dominic Toretto. I find the whole thing to be a little bit too ridiculous for me. I don't even think he's that badass. I think The Rock would kick his ass, and that's saying something. So for me, this is gonna be the first entry and not my bag, Dom Toretto. I have seen every single Fast and the Furious movie to date, and I don't like him in almost any of them. I think he's a detractor from most of them, unless you're looking at it for the memes. And in my opinion, if the meme of you is bigger than the icon of your character, you're less of an iconic action hero and more of a celebrity with memes.
This is Brazil.
All right, guys, we're really getting down to the wire here, but we've got one next that I'm just gonna go ahead and pop Ethan Hunt in Bad to the Bone, and here's why. If you haven't seen any of the Mission Impossible movies, this is Tom Cruise playing exactly the kind of character he was born to play. This is the best Tom Cruise character, maybe outside of his cameo as Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder. I love Tom Cruise's movies, and I'm not ashamed to admit that at all. Mission Impossible is my favorite action franchise in the world. In my opinion, it's the closest thing to a perfect franchise as you can get. Ethan Hunt is an action hero that to me is all the way Bad to the Bone. He has all the things that I'm looking for in an action hero. He possesses the qualities of Ripley and Bruce Lee and John McClane and Indiana Jones. He's in the greatest action franchise ever made. So, Ethan Hunt, you are Bad to the Bone. All right, coming in next, we've got Neo of The Matrix. Now, action hero, yes. Also some sci-fi, tech fantasy stuff. But I feel that it was apropos to include Neo on here. Now, this is also the second character entry for Keanu Reeves. So him and Arnold got 2 on this list. And I know I could have done like 1 million for Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is why I had to include him as the actor, not him as the character, Now, Keanu as Neo, the character himself, I would love to just put in Bad to the Bone because of how much I love The Matrix. But if I'm being honest, didn't love Matrix Reloaded that much. I still like it, I'll be honest. Don't like Matrix Revolutions. Did not like Matrix Resurrections or whatever that one was. Matrix Rebooted or whatever. I'm putting him in solid, and I hate to do it, but John Wick, if John Wick is bankable, Neo is solid, because John Wick has not had a bad film, and he's had the same number of films as Neo. Neo has had like 2 bad ones, 1 decent one, and 1 amazing one. So for me, Neo, I don't know, solid, but that's about it. Okay, now these next 2 are going to be tricky for different reasons, but next we've got Robocop, and I'm talking Peter Weller's Robocop. I'm not talking Joel Kinnaman Robocop. As an action hero, this is another one where the franchise only resulted in diminishing returns. There has never been a Robocop movie as good as Robocop, the first one, directed by Paul Verhoeven. Robocop genuinely is one of my favorite movies of all time, and if you guys want, I also have a great video breaking those movies down. Robocop, I have to put in bankable, because despite being probably one of my favorite film characters of all time, it's the character that I love, and it's because of that first movie. If there was no first Robocop and the second movie was where it all started, I never would have got into Robocop. And I like Robocop as an icon more than Neo, more than Mad Max, more than Sarah Connor. So I think bankable is probably appropriate. And finally, we've got another Arnold character. This is the Terminator. This one is tricky. This one is tricky for all the same reasons as Sarah Connor was tricky, because this is an icon that, like, we're talking movie quotes, we're talking Halloween costumes, the merchandise. You don't see a lot of Sarah Connor merch, but you definitely see a lot of the T-series robots as merch. How do you not put it in Bad to the Bone? I'm putting it in bankable. He's had too many bad movies as Terminator for me to put it in Bad to the Bone. I think the first 2 movies do a lot, but not for him. And also, we have to think too, like, there's a lot of bad Alien movies in my opinion, but Ripley is good in all of the ones that she's in. Arnold isn't great in all of these movies, and I don't think he's ever as good as he is in the first 2. So I think this is good. I'm happy with it. Okay, guys, that was my tier list of action icons that I love the most. And like I said, it may change if I revisit this anytime soon, but for now, I think I'm happy with the list I've got. Of course, I'm only one part of this conversation, and I want to know what you guys think of these action icons and what your ranking is. So go ahead and use the link in the description and fill out this list for yourself. Send me a screenshot, and maybe I'll talk about it on a live. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.